Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wonderful achievement, and I think we all should be very, very happy about what has happened. In fact, it's very, very exciting. The recent census figures as released yesterday shows that a little over 50% of the entire Fijian population is below the age of 27. 50% are below the age of 27. Nearly 70% are below the age of 40. So it is critically important, as we've been saying as government, that our young people need to be empowered. They need to be made aware of what is actually happening in their country, but more so than that, they need to be aware about the actual democratic processes, the electoral processes that lead towards them being governed by different political parties. And this is, of course, a great source of empowerment for them. The running of the elections, how it is conducted, what people need to do, these students will become aware of it, and as stated by the supervised elections, once they become 18, they will know exactly what to do. They will have confidence in the system. They will know about the system. This creates a completely different level of transparency. And in fact, I think the chairman of the Electoral Commission is actually quite diplomatic. The reality in Fiji, ladies and gentlemen, is that previously, prior to 2014, elections that were conducted did not have ever that level of transparency as we have today. Did not have that level of engagement ever that we actually have today in 2014 that we intend to do going forward. So I'd like to congratulate the Electoral Commission and the commissioners, the supervisor of elections for this wonderful initiative. I'm sure those students who acted as actors found it really empowering. But we have to also understand these students, it's not only for them. If you go to various communities, they are the ones who actually impart knowledge to their parents, to their grandparents. When people sit around and talk, as you know, people in their 30s and 40s, in particular now social media, have a tendency of, rumor mongering, have a tendency of spreading false information. And these young people are the ones who can actually correct them. We found this exactly in the budgetary processes. When we started 2 years ago having budget consultations with high school students, I was informed subsequently that many people sit around the grog bowl and talk about, Fiji's debt is this much, it's bigger than USA. These young people are actually correcting them, giving them the right information. So these young people are actually what I call the ambassadors of the truth. Ambassadors of those people who actually believe in the system and will actually ensure that the system is known by everybody else. The other important point also, ladies and gentlemen, that has never really been touched upon previously is that democracy is not only about having the general election. We must engender a culture of democracy, whether it's in the Parent-Teacher Association, whether it's in the Football Association, whether it's in the Rugby Association, whether it's in any other sporting organization, anywhere where there is representations of people. I've found so many stories. I'm sure you also have many stories. Well, people come and complain to you. They said, that Parent-Teacher Association, I'm sure the PS knows a lot about this. We find this a lot. The moment government started, for example, giving large amounts of grants to school for free education, suddenly every Tom, Dick and Harry was interested in the Parent-Teacher Association because of access to funds. We similarly find that in sporting organizations. There is very little democracy. There is no culture of democracy. The best, of course, are the trade unions. Complete lack of democracy in the way in they conduct the elections. Many actually have been resistant to these electoral commissioners and the supervisor of elections conducting elections for them. The way that the elections were conducted, for example, in the Fiji Public Servants Association elections, was that the General Secretary, even though he may be running for the elections, was the one who kept the ballot boxes. How ridiculous is that? It's like asking those people who will be conducting, who will be candidates for the 2018 elections, they'll keep the ballot boxes at their house. We'd never imagined that. But how can we actually let it happen in trade union elections? How can we allow that to happen in other organizations in Fiji? So we must ensure that the whole culture of democracy is engendered not just at the national level, but also at all the other levels, provincial level, district level, sporting organization level, trade union level, various associations. Only then will we ever be what we may call truly democratic at all levels. So it's the idea of the subscription to transparency, to ensure that everybody gets a right say and a fair say, and indeed that their say is actually represented in the final outcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, without making too long a speech, I once again would like to thank the Electoral Commission. As you know, that they're legally empowered, they're legally, in fact, it's incumbent upon them to ensure that they carry out such voter education. And of course, the Supervisor of Elections, who, as you know, conducted the 2014 elections, and again will conduct the elections this year. We do not know when the elections will be held this year, but as you know, constitutionally speaking, the government has to serve at least 3.5 years, but no more than 4 years. So there's a 6-month window, and that of course can be called at any time. And this again, of course, is a challenge for the Fijian Elections Office. They need to ensure that they are ready as to whenever the elections will be called, and also for the Electoral Commissions. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank actually the Electoral Commission, the Chair and the Electoral Commission. They have conducted themselves in a completely different level of integrity, credibility, and indeed in the manner in which they have conducted themselves is very, very remarkable. Perhaps I'm comparing them to some other people previously. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to once again thank the Supervisor of Elections and his team for their hard work. As you know, in Fiji, I want to reiterate this, before in Fiji, when the elections were held, people were then recruited. The elections office hardly had any staff. They probably had one secretary and one small office, no staff. Then as elections came about, then they'd hire people, poach people, recruit people, second people, take vehicles from this ministry, that ministry, conduct the elections. And then as soon as the elections finished, everybody went back to wherever they came from. To run a truly independent and credible and an organization that is internationally recognized, you need to have a continuing office for your elections office. So today we have, stand to be corrected, about 60 to 70 staff, Supervisor, permanent staff in the Supervisor of Elections. You actually have people who specialize in different areas. So they actually have career paths in those areas. This not only has created new jobs, but created a particular level of specialization for those individuals. And the Fijian Elections Office is now getting recognized internationally. They've been asked to go and observe elections in other countries. They've actually been given leadership positions in international and regional organizations. And this, of course, is a very proud moment for Fiji. And indeed, Fiji actually has become if you like, a representation of a model or an ideal electoral system and electoral office. So I'd like to thank the Supervisor of Elections for that. I'd like to thank all the staff who contributed to that. And of course, we look forward to the Ministry of Education rolling this out with the teachers. As you know, we've also created some new reforms within the teaching cadre in Fiji. And we now have what we call 3 student-free days for teachers prior to school starting, another 2 in each term, which gives them the opportunity to be able to have this level of training and again impart this knowledge, and I'm sure many of the teachers themselves will actually get to learn about it too. So thank you once again, and we look forward to this being rolled out. I wish you all a very good morning. Thank you.